This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
In iRacing, each community has the opportunity to choose their schedule for the upcoming season. In most cases, many will elect for a popular, easy-to-learn track on the first round in order to kick things off with good attendance. However, the Kamel community is not exactly your typical group of drivers. This multi-class series is already known for wild, unpredictable, and challenging races. So what have they chosen for round one? None other than Bathurst. Buckle up and hold on as we get ready to watch the opening round of the iRacing Kamel GT series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Adam Lindgren. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Hamjed, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Adam, any of our viewers who haven't heard of this Australian track are probably wondering why I'm hyping it up so much. So for those not familiar, explain to our audience why this is such a crazy choice for round one.
Well, Joe, it actually has nothing to do with the length of the course. While Mount Panorama is 4 miles or 6.2 kilometers, the tail of the tape is its next two impressive stats, 23 turns and 571 feet or 174 meters of elevation. And that's due to Kamel's unique multi-class scenario. In the Nissan, it's all about precision, nailing each corner within a centimeter of the curbs, perfecting your braking zone, choosing a good, snug setup that has good turn-in but isn't compromised on straight line speed. The Audi, on the other hand, is all about survival and raw talent, as you quite literally chuck the car through the many crests and blind overhill turns with the Audi's signature four-wheel drive creating unwanted understeer. You want a setup that is loose enough to get you pointed in the right direction when you land, but stable enough that the back end doesn't come around on you through the cutting and the S's. As if driving your own car around here wasn't hard enough, you have to cope with the other class as well. For the Nissans, it's pretty much luck. You will find an Audi through the quarry corner destroying your lap and letting your competitors get away. And for the Audi, it's mind reading. Will the Nissans that's been stuck behind you through Solomon decide to overtake you on the uphill to Philmy Park, compromising your line and sending you into the gravel? Only time will tell how this crazy cars plus track competition will stay out. So let's take a ride around Mount Panorama Circuit in our GSRC lap guide.
All right, we've got Kiradine Dwafia and the GSRC Audi, so let's do a lap around Bathurst. Coming down to Hell Corner, drivers are going to really be focusing on their exit. It looks like a simple 90-degree left-hander on the surface, but because you're coming onto the mountain straight, it makes it one of the most important corners on the track. Plus, these Audis cut a big hole in the air, so it won't take much for your opponent to catch your slipstream and make an attack. As long as they get close enough, they'll get a good chance into Griffin's Bend. But this uphill right-hander tends to cause atrocious understeer, and you'll often see drivers lifting late in the corner when they realize they've got it wrong. From there, you've got to switch sides to set up for the cutting. The blind entry because of the wall and the little kink makes balancing the car under braking a precarious effort. Once it starts to steeply climb, you'll need to get on the power as early as you can without losing grip. You're now into Reed Park, and you need a big lift to make it through the last right-left up at the top. Finally, now that you're coming to the highest part of the circuit, you'll have a trio of quick left-handers in Frog Hollow, Solomon Park, and McPhillamy Park. Every one of them will test your accuracy and bravery, culminating with the nasty curb outside of McPhillamy, which has punished many a greedy driver. After that, you fly over the crest of Skyline and begin weaving back and forth. You'll be slowing the car the entire time, and eventually you're forced to thread the needle at the dipper. Watch out for track blockages here with how easy it is to get any part of this sequence of S's wrong. As you continue to snake back and forth, it's best to hold the right on the approach to Forest Elbow. There's a sharp drop, and then try your best not to clout the outside wall. At the same time, don't wait too long to get on the power, because now that you're speeding down the Conrad Straight, you're stuck with whatever momentum the car's got. Once again, draft battles are likely to take place if anyone is able to stay tucked under the gearbox of their opponent. But if they find themselves still side by side once they hit the chase, it's going to be extra hairy. There might not be enough room for both cars to stay flat out in the kink, and it eventually becomes a game of chicken with the braking for the left-hander. It's not uncommon to see drivers outbrake themselves and skitter into the gravel because of the difficulty in slowing the car down. Now you've only got Murray's corner left to deal with, and just like the first turn, it only looks deceptively easy. The very tall curb to the inside really punishes anyone getting too greedy. If you survived all of that, you've now finished a lap around Bathurst.
There you see, visually, that should hopefully clear things up as to why we keep stressing this is going to be an absolutely wild ride for this first round. Before we get to this season, we need to cover last season, though, and include the championship results, just in case you missed out or are curious what the official numbers all wound up being. Well, Fabian Gerber did come away with the championship. Phil Lake managed second, and then John Keefe in third. None of those three changed positions in the final round. Fabian Jungluth and Ardo Iamaka, the only two in the GTP Championship who managed to swap spots at the last round. Let's take a look at the GTP lights. Of course, Johnny Bell up at the top. None of these four at all changed spots. Hideki Koivisto with a nice attempt, didn't quite make it. He wound up with second, and then you can see it was a pretty tight battle for third and fourth. Slee and Kopak. There were only 4 drivers competing in that championship. Adam, what about the 2 Audi classes that were fighting? How did those wind up?
You know, we're starting out with Rob Olenek taking the win over Milan Arnozzi by only 5 points. That one came down to the second to last race, but Rob had enough points going into the final round to be able to take a bye that week. Dennis Neidhart close behind Milan Arnozzi in third position. That was a good battle in the final race as well, with Nicholas Makanos losing 2 positions in that final race, and Ben Lafter coming home in 5th position. And we had the GTP standings, and that is where we saw, the GTU standings, my mistake, and that is where we saw Reed Miller come home with the win with 123 points. Only 7 points behind, though, was Sergei Serbin, mounting a very good charge, with Michael Haynes and his consistent attendance and racing putting him in 3rd position, only 19 points back, with Caden Bean in 4th and Alexander Veldman in 5th.
Now, if you've never watched this series before, you might be wondering exactly how the race is going to look like. Well, we've got a 40-minute race, which is a sprint format for these guys. They do have an endurance format, which is 20 minutes longer. They do have no stop for fuel, of course, with this race distance, at least no scheduled stop. If you have to come in, you're probably going to lose time. And there you can see winners in each class is going to get 25 points for the victory. Currently, they've got qualifying going, but as we watch those times come in, we just want to remind you that we are once again watching the Camel Series this season on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure and go to their YouTube page and subscribe when you get the opportunity. They have a big red button that says subscribe, so it'll be nice and easy to make sure that you get all of the Camel Series in your YouTube feed. Looking at the top of the prototypes, Fabian Gerber, no surprise. He's got another pole provisionally. Nick Mukanos, though, seems to have found speed here, Adam. He's not too much faster than Rob Olenek, but I can't remember the last time I saw Nick up at the top of the timing charts in qualifying.
Yeah, Nick's got a great front end on this Audi. He seems to have figured out a way to get it to really snug up and allow him to do a lot of good turn-ins, especially over the hills here at the top of Mount Panorama. So it's no surprise that he's got a good time as long as he keeps it consistent. So I'm not surprised to see him up at the top of the leaderboard. I think he's got one of the better sets out there on the track today.
Well, he's just about home free as he's got to come down the hill now. Ove Trangrade as well coming to put another lap in. He's got one in at a 2:03.5. He sits 3rd on the timing charts. It takes a long time to get laps in around here, but thankfully everybody should have enough time to get 2 of them in. Hits the chase and nice and smooth through there. Doesn't outbrake himself. One more corner to get right. I don't know about you though, Adam. I always found Murray's to be surprisingly tough for a 90-degree bend.
I mean, last season I found it surprisingly tough as well. The last time we were here, I think that was 2 seasons ago, causing a wreck going into that corner. It's really hard to get the right line through there as you hit your braking zone. you have a tendency to lock either the front or the rears going into that corner in the Audi. So it's a challenging place, especially because a ton of dust gets kicked up from the turns previously as well.
New pole sitter in the GTOs. That is Rob Olenek has managed to put a 10th on Mukanos. We're watching train grade. He improved as well, but not his position, just his time. Not much change on the front row for the prototypes. It is still Gerber up there with Lake flanking him. Most have finished their 2 laps actually in that class. I'm seeing if we've got anybody coming around to try and complete their qualifying there. Looks like Swain and Rothaker are the only 2 yet to complete. This is Alex Moss, a newcomer in the GTOs.
And because of the nature of Bathurst and how close the walls are and how hard this track is, we're going to see quite a few drivers who did not score a time due to off-tracks or contact. So it's going to be interesting to see who's at the top and also who didn't make a time at the end.
Alex Moss, let's see if he gets a time in. Yes, he does. A 2:05.8 is going to be good enough for 6th position in the class. Not a bad arrival for Alex, considering he's new to the series. And as the time ticks down, we are just about done with qualifying. Everybody's had the opportunity, but not everybody got a time in. Let's give you the rundown of how that finished out. It is going to be Fabian Gerber, as we mentioned, who did take the pole. Philip Lake, his challenger last season, returns to see if he could take it to him once more. He'll be on his outside. Jamie Hall starts P3 with Renato Viotto in 4th place. Radar Anderson starts P5. Stephen Warkup in 6th. Fabian Jungbluth will be starting in 7th, and Martin Krejcik in P8. Then Tanner McCullough jumps over from the Audis to the Nissans. He'll be starting 9th within the top 10. Johnny Bell will be P10. And then John Keefe 11th. We have a bunch of our GTP drivers who didn't get laps in. Miguel Hover Catalunya, Luis Emerton, Stefan Schlacker, Miles Tiller, Vincent Rothaker, and Jeremy Swain all did not get laps in. We'll start the back of the GTP field.
All right, and we're going to roll through the GTOs pretty quick here. We got Rob Olenek with the pole. Nicholas Meccano coming in right behind him, very, very close on time there. Ove Trengere is going to start alongside Riley Thompson. Reed Miller is going to start back there, as well as Alex Moss. We have Sergey Serbin as well, starting in 18th position overall. And then we have Matthias Hadval, and then Henrique Pitkanen as well, starting in row 10. Then we have Gennady Kalashnikov and Aaron Kertez there, starting alongside Michael Haynes. And then we have Riley Downey as well. And then we also have quite a few GTOs who did not start as well. We have Simo Reva and Chad Hissaw as well, who are going to start at the back of the pack today.
Porsche pace car already peeling away. Don't have to do a full pace lap, thankfully. Drivers might even have trouble doing that at pace speed coming up and down the mountain. So as they follow it into the chase, as we mentioned, Fabian Gerber will lead the way. How are they going to handle this with a few newcomers, a few unfamiliar faces having to get adapted to the craziness that is the Kamel GT series? Porsche pace car is getting ready to peel into the pit lane. Gerber given control. He's waiting patiently as they approach Murray's. Still waiting. Now he guns it. And away we go for round 1 as the green flag is out. It's a great jump for Gerber. It's a horrible start for Phil Lake as Jamie Hall gets into second. 3 wide down into the first corner. Hell Corner already takes a victim with Renato going offline. Let's go to the GTO start.
GTO's had an accident already. The number 6 car went around. That's Ove Trangerade. He got spun in that first corner, lining up to the front straight. So they've already had an accident, but because of that, the field has already straightened out a lot. But we got a challenge for the lead here with Nicholas McConnell closing in on Rob Olenek.
Olenek retains it as they hit Griffins for the first time. Lucano staying in line as they try to leave Riley Thompson behind. There's already a big gap there. Same thing back to 4th in that group with Sergey Serbin starting to drop back. into the cutting for the first time. And so far, as they climb the mountain, so good. A few drivers sliding around, though. I saw Alex Moss almost have a moment, but he collected it up before he hit anything or anyone. So we switch over to the Nissans now. They are already on their way down the hill. Fabian Gerber hitting Forrest's elbow. Now he gets to stretch the legs out on this.
And Miles Tiller has spun in the S's. Miles Tiller has spun around in the S's. He has got huge, heavy front end damage there, and he's gonna have trouble getting back to the pits even with that amount of damage.
Check the replay. Unfortunately, that damage came from getting hit twice, once from Rothacker and once from Swain. We're going to watch on board Tiller, the Atlantic driver, fortunately losing it on his own and stuck in a very awkward spot.
Tiller has taken a tow, and while we've been here in replay radar, Anderson has also spun around, exiting the hill, so he's down below most of the GTO drivers, so he's gonna have to catch back up as we continue to watch. Oh my goodness, just seriously unfortunate events there for Miller.
Wrong place at the wrong time, sadly. You're right, Anderson's got a lot of work to do. That's going to be something of a headache because he's not going to get any blue flags to help him go by these drivers to warn them that there's someone coming up. Meanwhile, we've stepped over to this battle for second place. Jamie Hall leads Phil Lake. He took it at the start. Let's see if he's willing to give it back to his teammate or if he's going to make him work for it. They climb their way through Quarry. Ride on board the view of Philip Lake to see just how narrow it is along this track in traffic.
Now these GTPs, it's all about precision. It's all about carrying your speed in and through the corners. And you got to be very careful, though, because if you hit these curves, that's going to bounce you straight out into the wall. These GTPs are extremely big, extremely wide cars, and that makes this narrow track a dangerous place to drive for them.
Plunging down through the S's into Forrest's elbow. They're already losing track slightly of Fabian Gerber, our leader. It's about 1.1 second up to him. Draft isn't known for being a big factor in these sleek machines, so they're probably not going to rock up to the back of them that way. It's going to have to be pure pace. Adam, you talked about precision being important in these machines. They also have those ground effects. And usually we talk about the curbs taking the air away from under. Are any of the crests bad enough around here that even the crest kind of gets the car light because it's taken the air off the bottom?
Well, if you're in the GTP, you have to just make a decision of whether or not you want to give yourself enough downforce that the crests don't cause you a problem. But that's going to slow you down on the straights. So a lot of drivers choose to go with less downforce. That means they have to be extremely careful going over those crests, that they don't lift up the tires too much and get that torque spin that we've seen on those rear tires many times in the past and have that spin them around going over those crests. We've seen that quite a bit here in past seasons.
Oof, look at this train just snaking its way up the mountain straight, though. This is Tanner McCullough and that light blue car you see leading Warcup, Jungbluth, and Krejcierik. So it's going from fourth, actually even farther back than that, from seventh. It looks like Emerton and John Keefe also trailing them. So back to ninth place.
Warcup is into the wall there at the cutting.
Makes it one less car in the train. And that was all on his own, clipping the inside. Let's watch on the replay. Precision not enough for Warcup today.
And he decided to take a tow straight away. He knows that the damage here at Mount Panorama for those GTPs, any front end damage is going to really reduce your straight line speed when you get to the rest of the course. So he probably knew that he had too much damage and had to back out.
In the meantime, it seems like you've spotted the battle brewing up at the top of the Audis. Olenek and Mukanos not getting away from each other.
No, we thought Olenek was going to pull away, but Mukanos has been honestly keeping it pretty close. And he's really doing a good job of closing in on Rob on the downhill portions and also the straights. One thing I didn't talk about in my track description and description of how this race was going to go was the draft effect for the Audis. The Audis can actually get going faster than the GTPs on the straights using draft. And so that can create some really interesting decisions and really interesting moments as the leaders of the GTPs start to close in on the back of the GTOs.
Just behind this group, they've got Miguel Catalud Calatayud, excuse me, who is trying to overtake them for overall position, even though he's not racing them. So again, they're not getting blue flags to let them know that he is coming up. He had a little problem in Forest Elbow, and that dropped him back significantly. So he won't be able to overtake them down into the chase. These are our top three that are ahead of him, and they've got Anderson, who you mentioned, who fell back at the start too.
Yeah, Miguel's been having trouble making passes here on these top three as he approaches Riley Thompson, and it's very difficult to make passes here on Bathurst, especially going up the hill, but he's got a good opportunity this time to hit it, to get Riley down the straights. But if he's slow over the hill, Riley's going to overtake him back.
It's a little bit of wheel spin on Miguel as we watch the top two try to draft one another, but Mukano's just not quite close enough.
And Jeremy Swain looks like he's taken a tow. Jeremy.
This looks like Griffin's Bend. Oh, he blew an engine. Now, we saw this a couple times at the last race of the season.
It's harder to do in the GTP than you think, but if you are too excited going on those downshifts, you can really throw the engine out of this thing and really, punch a rod out. And so it looks like that's what he did going through Griffin's Bend.
Well, good news.
Oh, and
for...
Miguel has crashed.
Yep.
Miguel Colata has crashed. He's crashed.
I was just about to say, good news for our podium, bad news for Miguel is that he no longer has to worry about lapping those cars. Let's see how he did this. Coming up into the cutting.
He just outbraked himself, I think.
Oh, was that Gerber that actually came up and touched him, though? That looked like Gerber. So I think it was the sister car, which I want to say is Jungbluth, potentially. We'll try and confirm that. In the meantime, Gerber's still leading, and he's stretched it to about 3.1 seconds over Lake, who still can't seem to shake... Actually, no, excuse me. No, Lake was behind Hall momentarily. So he managed to get by when we weren't looking. Move Philip Lake back into P2 where he qualified. Jamie Hall back to third. They have absolutely dropped Tanner McCullough, who is fourth behind them. He's 6.5 seconds back.
And Fabian Gerber, within the next lap, is going to catch the back of the still running Audis down to P14. That is Simo Raba. And he's, oh wow, as he pushes extremely wide going down through and Forest Elbow. So it's going to be interesting to see how Fabian decides to navigate these cars, because he's probably going to catch them going up to the mountain. So that's not the best place to catch an Audi for sure if you're a GTP. So this might close up that front pack in the GTPs for sure.
It certainly makes him getting that gap very useful, so he can take his time to maybe pick and choose a little bit more instead of making risky moves.
And Matthias Havdahl in the GTOs has gone off on Forest Elbow. He took it a little bit wide. He was able to save it, but he's extremely slow now, and he got passed by Reed Miller right there.
Yeah, did a nice job collecting that when he was out in the marbles. Actually, no, I take that back. He did clobber the tire barrier slightly, it looks like, so he might have taken a little bit of damage. Meanwhile, we're watching Jungbluth. He's trying to run away. Oh, and that's not the way you run away from Luis Emerton. A lot of wheel spin coming out of Hell Corner. Makes him slow on the mountain straight. Just breezing by in the red and white machine. Luis Emerton now cracks the top five.
As we're watching that battle, Fabian Gerber has caught up to the back of the GTO field, so he's going to start navigating those folks, and that's going to allow Philip Lake and Jamie Hall possibly to have a challenge, but they're going to catch the GTOs at a bad time as well. So if Philip Lake can navigate this traffic better than Fabian Gerber, this might be his opportunity.
Wow, just absolutely slicing through. So we watch from on board Gerber. Oh, meanwhile, the Dirty Torque drivers are certainly catching things at a horrible place down through the dipper, and somehow Aaron Cortez managed to pull through, but not before costing them quite a few seconds.
Yeah, that lost Philip Lake about 2 seconds there catching that car through the dipper. So as you can see, going over the hill in the GTPs, it's purely luck where you're going to find these guys, and you just have to pray that they're driving fast. Otherwise, you run into the situation where they can really slow you up and make you lose a ton of time. Jamie Hall's right on the back of Phil now.
Breaking down into the chase, not quite close enough to have a go at his teammate. These two dirty torque drivers tend to wind up close to each other as they come out to complete another lap. Looks like he's not going to get the opportunity yet again. So we've got a battle brewing down P7 in the Audis. Let's see if we can take a glance in that.
Yeah, Ove Trangaré just overtook Alex Moss for 7th place there going into Griffin's Bend. And looks like Alex has a little bit of front end damage. It shouldn't affect him too much here. But Ove Trangaré, after his early issues, he's really starting to claw his way back forward.
Yeah, hopefully he can find himself a decent finish considering his qualified implied. He's got good pace around here. They come over Skyline and down through the Dipper. He's not too far behind Hovdal. You mentioned before, sits in 6 ahead of him. It's about 2 seconds up the road. But how far back does this slipstream stretch down these straights in these cars? Do they punch a pretty decent hole?
It's about 1.2 seconds for the maximum amount of draft, and then you get back to about 1.5, 1.8 is where you really start to get any sort of draft effect. But any draft effect on the Audi is helpful because the thing's just a big, wall up front because of the grill. So any sort of draft definitely helps you catch up to the guys in front. But you got to be careful then as you're braking, because you're going to miss your braking point because you're going faster than you've gone before. A lot of these guys practice solo, so that's something that they have to get used to when they take it onto a track.
Personally, always reminded me of something of a car made of Legos, the way that they're constructed. So we watch the number 6 come around and complete a lap, and he is catching Matthias very quickly. What was 2 seconds is now half a second with a great launch off of hell. And I don't think he even really needed the draft on this one. He's already coming up to the rear of the number 7 car. Is he going to have a go? Yes, he pokes his nose to the inside over the crest. Down to the braking for Griffin's Bend. Matthias will fight valiantly, but not well enough. He'll have to slot back into 7th.
Yeah, that corner looks like it's banked enough for you to take the outside line, but it gets so dirty out. Oh no! Ove Trangaré sliding through the cutting. That's going to allow Matthias to get a little bit of time back, but I think Ove's just too fast. He's going to pull straight away.
Ove racing the only way he knows how to do, and that's on the edge of control as he slides his way around the cutting. Still holding on to 6th place. He'll have to worry about those tires as this race goes on, though. Hopefully he doesn't wear them out too much. Meanwhile, we're looking at 2nd and 3rd having to weave their way around the various parks up at the top of the hill. Thankfully do so without occurring any sort of damage.
It's very stressful trying to pass the GTOs up here. You come up on them so fast. All these corners are blind, so you really don't know when you're going to run into one unless you're checking your relative a lot of the time. So, when you're up here at the top of the hill, you don't have time to look away from the track. So it's very difficult to keep track of how fast you're closing on the Audis. If you catch one at the wrong moment, you're in trouble.
This battle for 2nd and the battle for 4th are two of our closest in the prototypes. That's Lake and Hall for 2nd, and McCullough and Emerton for 4th. Down into the chase. Unfortunately, Hall, who had to relinquish the position earlier, has not been able to pay Phillip back and get himself one step higher on the podium. There we see now McCullough trying to outrun Emerton as he hounds him at every corner.
Yeah, McCullough was running the GTO last season. He switched over to the GTP for this season. Looks like he's having a little bit more success with it. But Luis Emerton, we've seen his pace, and we've seen how aggressive he is. We'll see whether or not he can make quick work of Tanner McCullough here. But Tanner's going to choose discretion's better part of valor and wait for that Audi there, but that's going to allow Luis Emerton to get a really good run out of the first corner here.
Kalashnikov, who pulls out of the way just as the battle flies by. Emerton's within the slipstream. He's starting to pull up. He's to the inside, but as they break, he's not far enough inside, so McCullough holds him back for now.
I believe this is going to be a really good battle. Tanner is an extremely good defensive driver. He knows exactly where to place his car to keep other cars from getting by. But Lewis Emerton's extremely aggressive. So this is going to remind you of some of the famous battles we've had in Formula One as well. But these two drivers perfectly suited for the role that they're trying to do right here. One pass and one block.
And something's happened to Stefan Schlacker that slowed him down, and it looks like it is the wall. I think he clipped the inside of the cutting. Yep.
Just got, yeah, oh my goodness. Yeah, that wall hit is not going to do good things to your front suspension at all. Looks like he just got a little unstable right there going into the cutting, and that's going to be a very difficult spot for any car, especially the GTPs. And once that breaks away from that...
Battle for second, and the prototypes erupting. Phil Lake and Jamie Hall. Hall actually had a look down into the chase. It didn't work out, but he's getting ever closer, and they've got more traffic in front of them. This time it's Trangarade, Miller, and Serbin all fighting for position. That's going to complicate things greatly.
Gerber was able to cut through this all on the straight, so these two guys are going to get really held up here. Jamie Hall might have an opportunity to get Phil Lake back here, but as these Audis spread out and take different sides of the road, that's going to make it very difficult for them to get by.
Look at them trying to get as much draft as possible from the cars ahead. And it's not working for Jamie Hall. He didn't get enough of a slipstream to try and outrun his teammate, so he'll stay in third. But now they hit the mountain, and is very much going to be single file here. No Audis ahead of them, at least for this lap.
It looks like there's a battle brewing for 4th, 5th, and 6th as we take a look there in the GTOs. Looks like Reed Miller there is being seriously pressured by Obe Trangarade as they go over the top of the hill through.
Well, this is McFiglemy Park. They're all different sorts of parks, yeah, that are along here. And Miller is, even though he's under threat from Trangarade, he's also trying desperately to stay with Serbin for that 4th place. They come down through the S's and into Forest Elbow, all of them getting loaded up nicely. They're going to be interrupted because right behind them is the battle for 4th in the prototypes. Emerton and McCullough approaching quickly.
But as I was saying, these GTOs get going very quick in a straight line, especially when they're in the draft. And Reed Miller's got a very good draft going. We'll see whether he can do anything here.
Came up quick to Serbin, but not quick enough. All 5 cars weaving through the chicane. Looks like McCullough at least will get one of them before they come up to Murray's, maybe not 2. He's going to wait patient. Oh, bad exit off of the final corner for Serbin. We're going to go 3 wide as down to the inside. Reed Miller spies an opportunity. Emerton as well wants to get through. They all squeeze through Hell Corner, and somehow everybody comes out the other side. Reed Miller takes 4th place.
That was unbelievable heads-up driving from Reed Miller to put his car exactly where he needed to be and take that shot there. But it was able to give him the pass and allow him to survive. And everybody made it out of there on time as we look at another battle going there into Griffin's Bend.
Ove Trangarade thought maybe he could have a shot. Unfortunately, it did not pan out. He stays in 6th. Just another Nissan going to have to try and squeeze through. That's Fabian Jungluth, you can see in the background.
And the battle for P4 in the GTPs is really heating up. Tanner McCullough is having some serious issues with traction right now as they approach the S's here. Louis Emerton getting much closer. He's going to have an opportunity here, I think, at the bottom of the hill.
He's spying it. Oh, and we've got a wow, that is a lot of damage. That is Miguel Calatayud that we saw at the side of the track, missing most of the car, and he's... Oh, I think, did he get contact there from Keefe? It looked awful close. I think it's time for Miguel to call it a day. I don't think that car is going anywhere.
Yeah, I think Miguel's got way too much damage in order to continue, especially to be competitive. So he's going to have to park that car for the day. But That was a very stressful accident, and it could have been a much bigger pileup.
Certainly could have, and the racing gods are at least smiling on most everybody for now. Meanwhile, we've jumped back to Tanner McCullough and his bright blue machine, as Emerton is not letting him have any sort of relief. Not missing anything at the front of this field. It is still Gerber, and he stretched it to about 8 seconds. We got a car off. That is Simo Raba, unfortunately ending his day.
These two guys have not had any luck with the accidents. They've been happening all right in front of them. As we go and take a look at what happened to Simo Raba here, I think he just outbraked himself into one.
He was in the outside wall. Did he actually hit anything there?
I don't believe so. I think he just decided to park it.
Maybe he decided he's had a bad enough day, not worth trying to risk other people's races on this dangerous track. Meanwhile, Riley Thompson, a bit of a risk for Luis Emerton, who sneaks through and Quarry. Oh no, and he hits the wall. And there goes that fourth place through his fingers.
And that cost Riley Thompson as well. That pass through that corner, extremely dangerous, and that got Riley Thompson into the wall as well as we take a look at this replay.
Said that Emerton was having to take a risk. He took it, and the gamble bit him. Gives you a good idea of just how hard he slapped that left side. He's limping pretty bad. He's still in fifth. He hasn't been caught by Jungbluth, who's behind him, but he's already 3 seconds behind McCullough.
No, he's going to have to pit, Joe. There's
side.
no way he can continue with that damage.
Yeah. Well, in all this excitement, we've actually already passed the halfway point in this race. Your leader up at the top of the prototypes is Fabian Gerber. Rob Olenek, who we also haven't shown a whole lot of, the other Dirty Torque driver, is leading in the GTOs. He's extended his gap over McConnell's by about 6.5 seconds. But let's go back to fifth in those GTOs, where Trangrade's still working on Serban.
Yeah, I think Trangrade's got a really good opportunity here. He's got some traffic that's been causing Serban some problems, and it looks like Serban's tires are starting to give up. That's one thing we don't talk about a lot on the GTOs, but if you don't manage your tires throughout this race, it could be a serious problem as he looks out the outside here.
Serban's being stubborn, though. He's not willing to give this up. Defends the inside, and clobbers the wall as well. Coming out of Murray's. That hands it over to Trangrade easily.
As we go to the replay here, we can report that Luis Emerton has gone into the pits, so that's over.
And John Keefe has joined him, so both teammates coming in at the same time. It has been a miserable lap. There we see, thankfully, looks like just a glancing blow for Serban. I'm not seeing a lot of damage on the right side of that Audi.
Yeah, Serban just catching the grass there, and he just puts the power down, and with the outside tires gripping and the inside tires, the other way around, the inside tires gripping and the outside tires not gripping, that just put him straight into the wall.
Holy smokes, when did McCullough catch Lake and Hall? Look at this. Was that the traffic maybe? They just went by Michael Haynes in the Audi, so that could have slowed them up.
Something's happened to Phil Lake while we've been away, because he's 7.5 seconds behind Jamie Hall and extremely slow, slower than an Audi without drafting a straight line.
That hands third place to McCullough, who thankfully did not try to force a three-wide situation. We've seen that cause a full 360 down that straight at about 160 miles an hour before, so I think he was probably keeping that one in mind. So yeah, have you managed to go back and figure out what happened to Phil yet? He's not coming in.
Taking a look right now, I don't see anything that would be a serious issue here.
How bizarre. He's
yeah,
got
it
damage
looks
on the
like
right side.
All right, so when Kalatoyed had that accident, he piled straight into him. Philip Lake piled straight into Kalatoyed when he was spinning around there through the dipper there.
It's a shame we missed that development, but not a shame for Jamie Hall. As we mentioned, that gives him second place. Just to tell you how well Fabian Gerber is dealing with this race, he's now 18 seconds ahead of second place Hall. Just destroying the field today.
Yeah, Fabian's proving not only that he understands this car very well, but that he understands multi-class racing very well. Passing these slow cars on this track, that really takes a lot of talent and a lot of practice and skill, and the only way you get that is by racing a lot of races. We know Fabian's been here a long time, so it's awesome to see him really flexing his stuff here at this race at Panorama.
He's not only been in Kamel a long time, but he's also racked up a lot of prototype championships in the process. There's a reason why he's got a #1 on that GTP.
And if we could take a look at Rob Olenek in the lead of the GTOs, he's stuck behind a very interesting situation. He's got 2 slow GTPs and a slow GTO that he's going to have to deal with here. So this is a very interesting development as he almost gets sideswiped there by the 27 of Aaron Cortez.
Cortez thankfully saw him coming and did not completely pull over to the left. That battle between Keefe and Jungbluth wasn't actually a battle. It was Jungbluth who was a lap ahead of Keefe after he had to come into the pits. But credit to Rob Olenek with the gap that he's pulled over Mukanos. The question is luck going to stay on his side? Will the traffic keep him safe? And does he have the pace to keep this up?
And we just talked about Ove Trangarade passing Sergei Serban, but he's already only a second behind Reed Miller in 4th position. So Ove Trangarade really with quite an amazing race he's got going right now, and he might be able to get himself all the way up into, I mean, possibly P3 by the end of this race.
That's what I was going to say, because Riley Thompson's only about 3 seconds ahead.
And has taken the
pits. Oh my goodness. It just never stops. What happened here? I'm checking to see if he hit anything.
That's definitely going to promote Ove Trangarade into 3rd position if he can catch Reed Miller, and he's catching him quick.
Survival is the name of the game around a track like this. Already within the draft of Reed Miller, the Norwegian starts to apply a little bit of pressure on the number 18.
Yeah, these Audis going up this hill, you can see them, they're just pushing and pulling and just being very difficult to drive. Driving an Audi up this hill is like trying to domesticate a rhinoceros. It's big, it's fast, it's awesome, but it doesn't really go where you point it. So these cars, not easy to drive around this track at all. Oh my goodness, as we watch Reed Miller hit the wall.
That seems to be the theme of the day. If you can keep it off of the concrete, then you could probably get a good finishing position. Unfortunately for Trangarade, even though it slowed up Miller, it did not open up a door. And they are going to have the likes of Johnny Bell come up behind them as they go through the dipper. I think at this point, Trangarade is having to just try and wait so that he doesn't throw the race away, knowing that he could easily get by Miller, who slides it through Forrest Elbow. Oh, but a horrible,
Misshift from Trangarade as he was trying to get going, and that's going to allow Reed Miller to get away, and Johnny Bell's going to have to make this pass.
Bell's going to get 1. Well, there's a missed opportunity for the Norwegian. Reed Miller breathes a sigh of relief. He's got to watch to the inside. Here comes Johnny Bell. He gives him space, and he gets a little contact for his politeness. Here comes Trangarade a second time, and once again he can't do anything because there's Rothacker.
This race is nothing short of exciting, and with Ove Trangarade, Reed Miller, we got Johnny Bell and Vincent Rothacker. Rothacker should have an opportunity to pass Johnny Bell on this front stretch. Both of these battles should resolve themselves before they get to
up the mountain straight. Reed Miller's got some damage as we watch Bell and Rothacker. Down to the inside. Bell tries to defend. Rothacker going the long way around in Griffins, and there's just no grip outside of there. Backs out of it by the time they hit the cutting.
And Ove wasn't able to get Reed either, so these battles are still going. I guess I was wrong, but Reed Miller having a really hard time with his front tires. They are not gripping the way that he wants to, and he's having a serious time getting everything really hooked up. We'll see whether or not he has trouble heading over the top of the mountain this time as well.
Well, looking at the right side of that GTO, I think Reed Miller is probably dealing with an ill-handling car. look at how much it is banged up on the passenger side. And Tanner McCullough is not going to be content with third place now that Phil Lake has fallen back. He's been trying to peel P2 away from Jamie Hall for a number of laps, and I think he's going to get it this time. What happened there?
Jamie has some serious rear end damage looking at the car, so that must have happened while we were away as well. Some right side damage. He probably hit the wall going over the top of the mountain somewhere.
Checking to see if I could find it, if it's recent. I think it was within this lap. Oh, no, I didn't find it.
And the battle
Sorry.
for P3 in GTOs is really heating up. Reed Miller really puts a huge block on Ove Trangerade. If we could take a look at that again.
So can't do anything through Murray's. Let's watch the replay. Into the chase, you can see a little poke to the inside from the number 6. Trangerade tries to get the run off the corner, and he does, but unfortunately is almost forced onto the grass.
Yeah, trust me, racers have the memory of elephants, and so he's going to remember that. We'll see how kind he is here going into Griffin's Bend.
Reed Miller does not defend. He holds the outside, and that's going to give it away. In fact, he glances the tires. So Reed Miller has now evened out the car. The right side damage has been mirrored with some left side damage.
And that's going to free up Ove Trangerade to try and race after Mecanos, but with only 7.5 minutes left in this race, I don't think he's going to have time to catch that front pack.
Yeah, he's going to have to hope for a mistake from the number 10 if he wants P2. Let's go to 7th in the prototypes. Remember, we were watching Bell and Rothacker going at it. Rothacker now behind Bell again because I believe that was reversed not long ago, was it not?
Yeah, I believe so. So Rothacker is still sticking with Bell, which is a good sign. Rothacker, not a series regular here, but he shows up occasionally, and he's having a pretty decent race. Unlike some of the guys behind him, he has not had to pit for damage, but looks like Johnny Bell is lacking some serious straight line speed due to some damage that he has. So if Rothacker can get it woed up through the corners and get a good launch off, he's got a good opportunity to take him on the mountain straight.
Stand right with him. Oh, he got a good launch right here, and he's already looking for it down into Murray's. But Johnny Bell's going to take it down to the apex. He didn't see a car to his inside, so he sticks with the racing line. Another good run coming out of the final corner. Another look to the inside into hell. But Rothacker, and some wheel spins certainly not going to help as they
It looks like Steven Schlocker, he has hit the pits and he's taking a tow. It looks like he's out of the race.
Let's see what happened to Steph here. Gonna guess it's somewhere on the mountain. The last time it was in the cutting. Here's where we are, where he had his issue last time. He makes it through. Oh, but not out of it. And in Quarry, he bangs the right side hard.
Turbo lag, I believe, just having trouble getting those rear tires to grip, and so the turbo lag's going to get him. But this battle for P7's really heating up in the GTPs. Vincent is trapped behind Johnny Bell now as Johnny's got that damage.
He's making Johnny.
He really got extremely loose there going through the S's. It's a miracle he was able to catch it.
I was going to say he's applying a lot of pressure to Johnny Bell, making him look in his mirrors quite a lot. They now start to accelerate away. And I think you're right. Johnny just does not look fast in a straight line. So does Vincent finally have him? He's closing very fast. He's forced around the left side, which is the outside of the kink, but the inside of the actual chicane, but he's fully passed, so it doesn't matter which side he's on. Move Rothacker up to P7. Four minutes left to go. And nothing is guaranteed here in the opening round. As big of a gap as we're seeing, including 34 seconds now between Gerber and McCullough for first and second. I just can't imagine that anybody feels like they've got this race in their hands.
No, definitely. You cannot relax on this course at all. If you relax, especially late in these runs when the tires are really worn. Remember, these guys aren't pitting this race, so with the tires extremely worn down after such a long race here with such hard pressure on these tires, like, you got to be super careful going over the hill now later on.
Whoa! We were riding on board with Bell when he had that spin, near spin, I should say. Kept it out of the wall in the cutting, but he was trying to chase Rothacker as they came upon traffic, hoping for a chance to get that spot back, and unfortunately, it was not meant to be.
Rothacker almost running into the back of the number 10 GTO there. That was extremely dangerous. And that was Nicholas Mukanos in second place.
Yeah. Definitely don't want to take out the second place car, even though he's not in a direct battle, and he's got 28 seconds back to Trangrade. Like I said, this can still slip through his fingers.
But Joe, as we get near the end of the race now, let's talk a little bit about attrition here. We have just about 20 cars that have not had to take a pit stop here in this race. Attrition in this race has been very, very high from our 32 entries.
At least we're getting more than half finishing from what it looks like. This is the number 3 of Rob Olenek, who is our leader still, coming to complete one more lap. Let's see, where is Gerber and how many laps do we have left? Actually might be kind of tight on how many laps we have left, because Gerber's into the chase right now.
I believe it'll be 2 laps with him coming across the line. So this and then one more, I believe we'll get.
Yeah, the number 1 hits Murray's corner, and indeed, they're running about 151 laps, so he should have enough time to get those 2 in. Most of our battles have started to drift apart slightly, so let's run down the order of the top 5 for each class just to get you up to speed on what everybody's been going through. And Jamie Hall still struggling with damage here?
Significant damage if Fabian was able to get by him that quickly. That's a lot faster than I expected.
Fabian Jungbluth is now up to P3. Wow. Both Hall and Lake seeming to have similar days. Let's run down now that pass has been made, starting with our prototypes. Fabian Gerber, we're talking about how he put it on the pole and seemed to have pretty good pace over everybody else. As soon as he pulled a gap with the traffic, he never looked back. It's 34 seconds between himself and the next car. Tanner McCullough coming over from the slower Audis to the faster Nissans and making a good transition, though he's still got a lot to do to try and challenge the likes of Fabian Gerber. Even still, I think he'll be happy with an opening second place. Then we just mentioned our third place driver, Fabian Jungbluth, recently got himself up there. A lot of this due to attrition, considering he started 7th. By the way, McCullough started 9th. But Fabian Jungbluth will probably take whatever he can get as he runs away from a very damaged 4th place Jamie Hall. Number 11 is about 16 seconds ahead, so he shouldn't be too threatened with this being the white flag lap now. Renato, I'm going to have to get some help on this last name. Mavieto, I'm guessing. I'm probably wrong on that. Is in the top 5. He's a newcomer to this series. At least we haven't seen him race here in the broadcast. He qualified 5th. Qualified 4th, and he's up to 5th. So 1 spot lost. Still a top 5 is not easy to come by. Let's go to the GTOs.
We got Rob Olenek up front. He's had a commanding lead for this entire race, almost 30 seconds ahead now of the second place of Nicholas Mukanos. A fairly uneventful race for him. He didn't really have a challenge himself from Riley Thompson in those first portions of the race, so he's just held station and has stayed out of trouble. And as we saw, almost come into contact with that GTP, but it wasn't a bad incident, so he's still going strong in second place. Ove Trangarade, after early contact in turn before the green flag, really, he is all the way back up to 3rd position after dropping down to the likes of 9th or 10th position there. So he's made a good comeback. Reed Miller, not his best race, probably a race that he wants to forget, with significant right side damage due to a couple of hits on the walls on the top of the hill. He's going to want to forget this one for sure. And then Sergey Serbin down in 5th position, pretty consistent for him for this race. A really good race, I would say, for his situation based upon the points from last season. So for him, survival was the key, and coming home with the top 5 is going to do great for him. All right, Joe, looks like Fabian's coming down the long straight at the back end now.
Yep, the Conrad straight, the Chase, and Murray's is all that's between Fabian Gerber and an opening victory. He took the most wins last season, and I think he's looking to repeat that feat this season. Into the Chase as he laps Nick Mukanos, our second place driver in the GTOs, up to the final corner of Murray's. It is a difficult track to open on, but Fabian Gerber made it look easy and wins here today at Mount Panorama.
And unfortunately for Rob Olenek, he was just ahead of Fabian Gerber, so I believe he's got another lap to go here.
That gives a little time to check out anybody close. I see that Fabian Jungluth is not too far behind Tanner McCullough, but I don't think he'll be able to really put a threat on Tanner unless he makes an error. You see the light blue car. Again, qualified in 9th. He has got to be very, very pleased with this one. Another of our GTPs up to Murray's and around the corner to finish here today at Bathurst on the podium.
Such a good premiere for him in the GTPs. That's going to be very confidence boosting for him for sure.
Just want to mention too, it was relatively close between Miller and Serbin, but Miller managed to come home in 4th, even though he lost out to Trangerade. So let's give Rob Olenek a little bit of screen time. He can't lose the first place now, since Nick Mukanos has already finished the race. At this point, he's just taken a victory lap down through the S's and into Forest Elbow. I tell you what,
impressive drive.
Yeah, and Olenek is really carrying some great momentum, because not only was he the champion in GTO in this series, but he was the champion in the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legend Series as well. So 2 championships in his hands and kicking things off with a victory. He's got to be smiling.
Yeah, here he goes now. I mean, this is such an impressive run from him. All respect to him. He's a great battler, a great guy to race with on track, really respectful with you on track. And so it's awesome to see him have this amount of success.
Success comes to him once more here in Australia, taking the victory at Bathurst for the number 3 car. That's the last of our vehicles that need to cross the line, so let's take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Between now and our interviews, as well as the official results, we'll have all the upcoming races here on the GSRC on screen, so don't go away. Welcome back to Bathurst. We just watched round 1 in the Kamel GT series. No surprise for the winner in the prototypes. It was Fabian Gerber taking another victory and proving why he is considered one of the best in this Nissan. Tanner McCullough followed him home, though, considering he qualified in 9th, and this is his first time in who knows how long to race in the GTPs. I'd say he should be pretty happy with 2nd place. Fabian Jungbluth did challenge him home, but had to settle for 3rd. I say settle with tongue firmly in cheek. Fabian also from 7th place on the grid, a big climb. Jamie Hall is the one that is probably disappointed, falling back to 4th place with damage when a second could have been in the cards. Ramato Armavieto finishes in 5th with Phil Lake, similar to his teammate, being up at the front, taking damage, falling all the way back down to 6th. Vincent Rothacker finishes in 7th with Johnny Bell finishing P8. Luis Emerton was in the hunt for a decent finish for some of the time, but then himself ran into damage and wound up a lap down in 9th. Then it's Martin Krejcik rounding out your top 10, and Adam Radar Anderson was the last of our GTP cars to finish in 11th.
Then we have Rob Olenek in 12th position, finishing 1st in the GTOs, a really dominant performance from him. Nicholas Makanos keeping it clean, coming home in 2nd position, with Ove Trangerade on the hard charge in 3rd position. Reed Miller, after his troubles, is able to salvage a 4th position, and Sergei Serbin with a good solid finish in 5th position. Then we have Matthias Hobdahl in 6th position. Then we have Gennady Kalashnikov in 7th, Alex Moss in 8th, and Aaron Cortez in 9th for the GTOs. Then we have the stragglers, those who had trouble, starting with John Keefe, Simo Reba, Stefan Schlacker, Michael Haynes, Ryan Downey, Riley Thompson, Miguel Jovier Calatayud, Jeremy Swain, Henry Pitkanen, Stephen Warkup, Miles Tiller, and Chad Hissa are going to round out your field.
A lot of frustrating days for a lot of drivers, but not for Fabian Gerber, who took the victory here today. Fabian,
hello.
A 39-second gap at the end is impressive. What is the trick to staying out of trouble and being fast around here? Because that was amazing.
Well, thank you very much. I can't really say because I didn't feel like I was going so fast because there was so much traffic. I always had to back off, and I just was very careful, and smooth is fast, safe is fast, so it worked out really well.
What did you think seeing Bathurst as the first race up for the season? And this series already tends to have a lot of unpredictability, but Bathurst is incredibly tough. Were you worried about newcomers coming in and not necessarily knowing how things will work?
Yes, a bit, to be honest, but it all went well. It was actually traffic didn't play such a big role as it does on other tracks where even though you think it should, but all went well, and there were no hairy situations, whatever. I didn't lose too much time, at least not more than the others.
We're going to a different sort of tricky situation next week with Zolder. Lots of chicanes, a very short lap around there. How do you expect things to go?
Unfortunately, so it's not unfortunate because I'm at the Swiss E-Prix, so I can't be racing tomorrow. Yes, I'll be back the 3rd week.
Well, I'm very jealous. I would love to go to an E-Prix at some point. Congratulations on the victory, and we can't wait to see you get out and race again, sir.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Up next, we have 2nd in the prototypes, and Adam's going to be talking to Tanner McCullough.
Yeah, Tanner, what a premiere for you in the GTPs. How did that race go from your perspective?
Well, I started the race, everyone around me died, and I finished 2nd, so it worked out well.
Yeah, what a finish. I mean, so switching over from the GTOs to the GTPs here, how different is it racing in this GTP compared to the Audi?
You aren't in a constant state of fear of someone running you over from behind, so that was a little nice. But yeah, there's a lot more control that you feel out there because like everything's happening in front of you, not behind you.
And now that you're in that GTP, how is it trying to overtake those Audis, and what are you learning about overtaking the Audis that you didn't know as an Audi driver last year?
Just that some of the slower Audis are a little bit scary, but for the most part, it's basically what I expected.
Well, fantastic. So going into Zolder Alt next week, what are you thinking with all those chicanes and that tight track?
I think it's going to be another race where it's just about keeping the car healthy and not bouncing over a chicane and losing 2 seconds a lap from damage, I think.
Awesome. Well, is there anyone you want to thank today, Tanner?
Just want to thank everyone for watching my stream, watching the broadcast, and thank you guys for doing this.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Tanner, for coming out, and thanks for talking to us. And yeah, I believe we have Phil Lake now with Joe Peak.
Yeah, not the day that Phil Lake wanted, considering he started on the front row. Phil, it seemed like you had a nice little battle going with your teammate, and at least a podium was looking likely, and then you came upon Miguel. Tell us about the incident.
Yeah, coming down over Skyline, and I hadn't really been having any issues with the Audis up until that point, and I noticed I was coming up to a Nissan, and as I was catching him, his car didn't look in the greatest of shape, and it's a little bit different when you're catching a Nissan because you're not you're not really sure if they're going to let you go or if they're going to make you actually pass them or how it's going to work out. So I was kind of looking for little tells of if he's going to give me some space, and then he decided to give me the inside, or I don't know, to kind of yield going into the dipper, which was not the best decision. And then I just got tangled up with him as I think he hit the wall on the inside.
Sorry, go
and
ahead.
that was pretty much race over. From there, I was about 8 seconds off the pace for the rest of the race, and the car was an absolute handful, but made it to the finish. Not a good start to the season.
We can hear the disappointment in your voice. In that decision to continue on and not come into the pits to get the damage repaired, do you think you would have been better served to try and hop in to see if you could get anything fixed on the car? Do you think you went about it the right way?
There's always a little bit of fear that you're going to come into the pits and get the dreaded too much damage thing. So I did think about it, but once you've kind of done one lap, I think I did a couple of laps that were 2-minute twos or something like that, and I thought, well, I've already lost like 20 seconds, so if I come in now, it's going to be hard to get that time back. So and you have no idea how long the repair will be. So I think staying out on track is usually the better option, unless you know what damage you have.
Well, commiserations on the 6th place. I'm sure you were hoping for a little bit more. Maybe the luck will turn around as the season progresses.
Yeah, I'll be back next week and try again.
That was Phil in and around the lake, who, while he started on the front row, finished in 6th today. One more before we go. Adam has caught up with Stefan Schlacker, who seemed to have had a bit of a topsy-turvy race out there.
Yeah, from one driver who had some damage but continued it going, and to another driver who had some damage and was unable to continue. Stefan, you had some trouble during this race. What happened?
Well, one could definitely say that I had trouble. No, the start was quite good. I got a little bit bogged down by the outside lane, who had a terrible start. But I climbed my way back up to 9th place at one point, or was I 8th? Something like that. But it was a good race until then. I just tried to keep it clean, try to keep it off the wall. So basic survival stuff at Bathurst, I guess. And then, yeah, I had some struggles on the brake because of how far back those were. And moving them forward didn't help. And then, yeah, just overcooked it slightly into the cutting. And you saw what happened there. I was sort of surprised that I didn't get a meatball from that. A few laps later, down into the dipper, out of the dipper, over the bumps, completely thunder-footed it, backed it into the wall, and yeah, tried to spin it around, hit the wall again with the left rear. Still surprised that I didn't get a meatball from that. The third tries to charm into McPhillamy Park once again, hit the wall, And yeah, a lap later over the bumps, once again, you saw it out of the cutting, just completely lost it there because of too much damage. And then had the meatball, had way too much steering angle on it to go straight. And yeah, decided to just, keep it clean, keep it safe for everyone, and park the car on the side and tow it, because it's fun to race a car, but it's not fun to ruin anyone's race if you have a damaged car.
Well, after such an eventful race this week, what are you thinking next week with Zolder?
I'm not sure if I'm gonna race. I really love Zolder because it's such a quirky and weird track with just being basically consistent out of chicanes. But yeah, I will have to see. I didn't do any practice for this round. I'm gonna be honest. We're gonna see how I'm gonna feel next week, where I'm gonna be next week, if I'm here or not. So yeah, just seeing from week to week basis if I'm gonna run Kamel or not.
Awesome. Well, it was great talking to you, and I hope you have a better result the next time you do run.
I hope so too.
Awesome. That was Stefan Schlacker, and back to you, Joe.
Yep, that's going to wrap things up today for the broadcast. But of course, we want to thank a few people, including the Kamel community, for bringing us back for another season of coverage, and also to iRacing for putting us on the iRacing Esports Network. Once again, if you go over to the YouTube page, click the big red button that says subscribe, and you won't miss a moment here in Kamel GT. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Adam, Amjed, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. We're also on social media, on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Next race, as we mentioned, we're heading over to Belgium. That'll be at Zolder, Saturday, June 22nd at 1 p.m. Eastern. But we have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.